We're here to solve the Slitherlink even rows and columns variation by Matej Uher. It's themed centered squares, and I'm just going to start by marking a whole lot of lines that I actually know around this grid. One thing that actually looks key at the start, I'm running this like pretty quickly, is we've made a corner around this 2 clue, and that will always take the left and top or the bottom and right, but this part of a 3, this is a 2-3 pattern is pretty common in Slitherlink. But it's not common that it has a 1 down below. So notice how actually this connection is not possible. So this has to take the left and the right, sorry, the bottom and the right. This then is going to turn over, and that means this is going to be here. This comes up, this comes over, this comes down. We've got this pattern around the 3s with this extra line on the 2 always required. You can have like this or this. You never can take this edge, but this right one is always part of this pattern. These are always there. I think that actually sets up something neat in this column. So let's start with marking sort of inside and outside clues, and then let's go back to the second column and show you something there. We know these for sure. We actually don't have as much yet forced here, but in the second row we've got 3 in the grid. This can be in, and then this will always be out, or this can be out, and then this is out as well. And notice that this pattern, that's the pattern. If this is the shading, does not leave an even number in the row. So this is not the way it's done. This is the way it's done. And this comes across the top. So we have this marked in, all these marked off. This 2 and 4 look good for these spaces. This is marked off. We've got right now 6 in this row, so we leave this out as well. We now have these all marked in. And now we can come to this thing that we had to observe at the start in the second column. So this 3 pattern has an even odd, an in-out parity that has 2 in, 2 out. And the same is actually true down here. We don't know which are in or out. And this 0, 2 clue, these 2 cells are always going to be the same color. So now we actually are at a stage of the puzzle. It's easier to see now that we have effectively 4 inside and 2 more down here, which will be inside. But the first thing we could have done in this puzzle was actually mark this 3 has to be outside the loop. So this is the only parity breaking part of this whole column. These 4 cells are 2 and 2. This is 0 or 2, and this is another 2 or 2. So the thing you can't do is add 1, which will break the even row column thing. So anyway, now that we have this marked as outside, but also this other thing is inside, this has to be a line segment. And we also know that we can't have this pattern because the 2 is then broken, which means that we do have a line segment here. So that completes this shading of the column for inside outside. And it sets up with some other cells we can mark that I haven't, I guess I have more I can do for the bookkeeping. It sets up some potential tensions here, and my guess is that there'll be patterns around these 3 clues that will fix the rest of the group. But let's start by maybe looking at this 4th row. We have right now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the group. One of these is going to be in and the other out, so that's 8, which means this can't be in and has to be out. So we have 1, 2, 3 out and 8 in. So this loop side is required. Let's look very much about this 3rd column. So right now we've got 4 in the group, and we have effectively 2 ways this 3, 3 can go. One is this way, which would force all of these outside, and then be a situation where of the options for the 3 above, there's one that's going to put 3 in the group, and that would have an even, 7, not an even number for the column, and this other way, which leaves some flexibility for what's in or outside the group. But the main thing to note is that one way these bottom 3 cells go is 0 is added into the count, so not changing the parity. The other way, which looks like this, also in these bottom 3 cells, just puts in 2. So 0 and 2 are effectively not changing the parity. And so we get to where these 3 cells collectively are going to work on their own to say what can and can't work for this group. And that's because if this is adding 0 or 2, The bad situation is this one that's adding 3 together into this whole space, because now this is going to have 7 or 9, and that's going to be an odd number of cells inside the loop. So the 3 can't be over on the right. It has to have that open. That means this wraps up. It means we can mark these cells off. These 4 are still having 0 or 2 coming in here, so this cell critically cannot be inside the loop, and marking that in is going to help us now actually force this pattern, which has all of these outside. This is going to come down here, and we have 6 if we get all the way to here. We don't want to take this 7, so this closes off. These loop ends don't want to close together, so this is going to roll this way, and that leaves this in here. So we've got some more cells to mark, all of these actually. This comes down. We've got 6 in this row, and this 3, if it were wrapping around the top like this, would add just 1 cell into the row, and that wouldn't work because we would have an odd number overall. So this doesn't wrap around the top. This has an edge on the top. And doing that, it will add either 0 cells or 2 cells in this row. No, just 0 isn't an option. That would be this coming straight across, and that's not putting 3 in that space. So this has to be in and in. This comes down, this comes down, this comes down, this comes down to make that work. And we can mark in this edge, we can mark in these edges. Actually, because of that, we have a whole set of cells here that we know are going to be outside. Didn't mark this in, but this is another key place to just do some of the Slitherlink steps. This one is effectively in a corner, so can't use this edge, has to use the bottom or top. That means the other edge is going to come out here through the 3. And it also means this 2, once this edge is marked off, is now effectively in a corner, so this has to pattern this way. So the same way this 2, 3, 1 had a quick logic, this 1, 2, 3 here has some quick logic, again with that 2, 3 cornering kind of step. This now shading in some colors has 5, will have to be 6, so this comes all the way here. This end doesn't want to close with that end, so this has to come over. So we get these coming in. Yeah, we do have to at least dodge this and this for sure. These are marked in. The count is 1, 2, 3, 4, so this is out. The count is 6, so this is out. This is forced out then for sure. How are we going to manage this? So this 3, 2, actually this has to be outside. We have 2 cells in. We're going to have to make both of these be in for the loop to be connected and to have an even number in the row. So in means we draw this, means we draw this and this. This edge is going to have to continue down, and so this is going to look like this. For the shape, this 3 has to have 3 edges used, so it looks like so. And drawing that, it now has these marked in. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7, so this will have to be 8. That puts in this edge and this edge. These edges now need to dodge, so we get all of this into the grid. And this marked off, and so now we just can probably use coloring to finish this grid. And so we have 7 in green here, and we need to get 1 more in green, and we've got 6 in green in the bottom row, and so these will have, for instance, 2 off together or 2 on together. So let's do the on together. That makes this required to be off for the counts to work. That puts this in, which puts this in, and we're now already in a case where we're not going to have 3 drawn around this edge, but we can continue this further. We would have this shaded in and this shaded in to have everything even in their rows and columns, and so this would be a 1, not a 2, not a 3. This would be a 1, not a 2. This would be a 1, not a 2. So the other option is that this bottom is what's not used, and that marks this in, marks this in, marks this off, marks this in, marks this in. And that does look valid for both the counts everywhere, but also for having a 3 and a 2 and a 2. So putting that in, and we finish the puzzle. So thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you got some sense of the ways to break in the different parts of the grid. This 2, 3 clue is pretty useful to start. Then the counts of all these inside cells here. The second column had a lot of constraints around it, that the bottom 3 rows didn't really contribute to the parity count, which meant that this 3 was forced to be directed this way. This was a very useful observation. Eventually fed into the full shape here, and the shape with this too to get to the rest of the grid working. So complex Saturday puzzle, but a good trial of both your Slitherlink logic and the even rows and columns logic. So hopefully you learn tips and tricks through this puzzle that you'll take forward to future Slitherlink challenges. Thanks, we'll see you again soon.